Hey everybody, Kimosabi here giving you an update. So I have an update on this Slice app. If you guys are interested, I finally am going live with it. It's time to launch it. So I did put one post in there. Looking to update more over the weekend and potentially get some trade setups and some market analysis over the weekend. Should have some exclusive content in there, kind of when it hits me, like educational content. You also have direct access to ask me questions and interact with me directly uh, to try to help you along with your trading journey. So if you are interested, go ahead and check out the link that I'll put in the description below, and there'll be a promo code for 30% off of your subscription, whether or not you take a month, 3 month, or 12 month. The 30% applies to the entire duration of your subscription. So limited time as far as I know. I'm not sure how long that 30% will last, but maybe I'll have an update for you in the next video. But let's look at Bitcoin and see how it's doing. Barely anything's been happening here on the daily chart. It's been a week now that we've been kind of trading in this little nothingness of movement. I was contemplating matching that with that area, kind of seeing those as being similar and expecting a push-up continuation to mimic this leg. The invalidation is, I think it's these lows right here on a closing basis for sure. So if you get a daily close below those lows, that gives you the lower low, then you just sell the lower high. But at a glance right here, just looking at what the market is trying to do, the price action pushed up to here and took out these liquidities right there. So you had all that liquidity was taken. Now that the market is pushed up a little bit further, that suggests that the market is pushing for these stop losses around the 100,000 area, uh, maybe up to 101 or just above 100,000. There should be some liquidity up there that can be taken before a nice rejection. It's kind of the way I'm looking at it for now. So let's draw this out, just expecting that leg to be matching that leg. Now you're getting a push up. I'd like to see it stay above the week's consolidation as a show of strength and a potential back test of the highs. So it's popping up like that and then continue a little bit. Looking for those liquidities, sharp rejection, and maybe one more push up just to take, the sell setup for like a double top, just barely wick above there. The same way that it kind of started down here, I would expect it to finish the same way up there. Certainly doesn't have to, but you see the double bottom type of thing, kind of expecting it to finish the same way as like a double top, where you have a sharp rejection and then one more push up to stop those people out. Would much prefer it stay above the consolidation, just back test it and then push up off of there. I think my current invalidation was 94,000, but I'll get into that on the lower time frames. Let's take some measurements here. Just measuring the closing price from the lows at 76,270 to the closing price of the highs, projecting from those closes of the week, kind of leaves you with a target of 104,716 eventually to be hit, kind of that area, taking out all that liquidity. And that was kind of going along with what I was mentioning in yesterday, not yesterday, 2 days ago, the video about 74,000, then 84,000, then 94,000, then 104,000, and just keep on hitting those fours, or you could call it 85,000, 95,000, and 105,000, but it looks like the consolidations happen right at the fours. I think everybody's kind of bored of the price action just sitting there, sideways popping up, sideways, slight pop up. This actually could turn into a sell setup, but I would need to see it close back inside of this consolidation. Then you target the lows, and if you close daily candles lower low, you can expect a lower high, and validation would be at the high. All right, I'm zooming into the 2-hour chart because there's something I can see on the 2-hour chart that I can't see on the 4-hour chart to illustrate. But essentially, I want to stay above this consolidation I'd prefer to just back test the previous highs, which was resistance technically, and turn that into support. That would be excellent to have that. Where's this price? This is 95,600. I do believe I posted a buy setup on X because of Tony the Bull Severino and his sell setup, and I wanted to give the other side to that. Seeing as you are closing higher highs and higher lows throughout here, for me, that's not a sell setup just yet. I'd like to see a lower low close before entertaining that. You might have that here. If you close like a 4-hour candle below these lows, then you have the potential to sell that lower high on a 4-hour basis with an invalidation at that high at 97,800. And I'm not opposed to that. Certainly don't want to see it come this far down back into the consolidation around 94. That would not look very bullish to me. I wouldn't like that as much. From there, you would have to break the highs before I buy any small pullback for continuation. And then I would have to match this leg with that. Let me draw that out. So if you do come that low, you'd have to call this some kind of ABC there. Then you could potentially have this as like an ABC down to 94,500, which would be the center of this area, kind of matching that top with that low. That's a lower probability setup, but they do play sometimes. What I would need to see is an uptrend to start from there, and then I would potentially try to manage risk off of the 94.4 if it comes down that low, and then expect it to break the high, and I might add on a small pullback for continuation, or just wait for it to break above the high and hold, especially closing higher highs and higher lows. So no sell setups for me just yet, because the higher highs and higher lows, technically you have this high, this low. So your higher low should come in right around previous resistances. That should be the buy setup, and you should definitely have invalidation here at 93,000. But I think I was looking at 94,200 as my invalidation. I didn't really want to see it come down that low. I would have to look for a different setup. But holding above this range for the week is actually pretty bullish. And zooming into the current kind of impulse up and counting potential Elliot waves, which I don't usually trade upon, but I can see a potential Elliot wave count where that would be 1, 2, this is 3, working on an expanded flat 4 that would potentially come down to wave 4 of lesser degree, which it may already be there right now. I need a 15-minute uptrend at least before entering long there. But you could be coming down to backtest that high as a 4. Then your wave 5 could pop up and get just under that 100,000 mark to get like 50% of the way through the upper portion of the larger range. So that's where I would look for major supply, all the stop losses to get hit that are above 100K, potentially have real bullishness coming into the market where people are like, oh, here we are above 100K again, and, calling or talking smack towards anybody that's trying to short the market, sort of a local euphoria, and then just get smacked back down, grab some liquidity, and one more push up maybe to 102, 104 area, like I was saying on the daily chart. So the potential for the wave 4 idea, what you tend to look for is a 50% retrace of the wave 3 in linear scale. I'll have to check if I do have this in linear scale. But what I want to measure is from wave 2 to wave 3, to that wave 3 high right there. Drag it sideways. And you could see the first leg down hit that 382. Then you had a bounce up, coming back down. So I'd expect the buy setup to be at 95,800 or so at this point. Somewhere around there makes sense, which is wave 4 of lesser degree. You should have divergences, bullish continuation divergences coming from that wave 2 to wave 4. The RSI should be lower on probably a 2 hour, maybe even on a 4 hour. And you could take that and trade that up for a 618 extension, which let's get the measurement for that for an Elliott wave target. I'm just using liquidity as the target, which is basically the 100,000. But if we were to get down there, that only gets you up to 98,700 or so. 98.8. If we go from current low, if this ends up being the low, the 618 extension is 99,100. So maybe it gets up there, maybe it pushes the 100K, somewhere around there. You're definitely in an area where you probably want to be pulling profits off of any trades that you have from lower. Just skim some off and have some kind of something to say for yourself, for looking at the charts. Pay yourself for your time, because it is, in my opinion, very likely that you eventually come and revisit this liquidity down here at 91,000. And if that kind of falls apart, you may be coming back to the 81,200 area for that liquidity at previous supports. Kind of like I've been saying in my videos for the past week or two. So still looking for the same thing, still have the same levels marked off. Now we're just getting down to the nitty gritty and the small time frames here to potentially capitalize on a small move up here. But what if you're bearish? What if you want to short this market and you're expecting lower lows? How do you enter that short trade? What do you expect? You would expect the downtrend to start at least on a 4 hour to start that trend, and the 4 hour spills over into the daily. What I would prefer is to see liquidity taken, because that's ultimately the target. The market needs this liquidity. It doesn't necessarily need this liquidity, but it does need liquidity overall. And the more liquidity it takes, the better off it is. So seeing as the market is trying to push up, it looks like it's targeting that liquidity. So I'd like to see that liquidity taken, potentially a push down that gives us a swing low, and then break below that low. And that would tell me that it's likely going to go down for lower liquidities, the 91 region, the 82 region, and potentially down, break the lows down to 67 for that other Elliott wave target. But I think that's it. That's all I have for today. I'd like to update tomorrow probably the S&P 500 and the anatomy of the potential crash and how that could affect the Bitcoin and gold markets. Kind of have some ideas that I'm playing with, but seeing as we're on the weekend here, maybe some more chop here, maybe test some lows, test some highs, and chop around in this area over the weekend. And maybe you have a liquidity grab on Monday, and that might mark the top. You might have the high of the week on Monday to push down for lower liquidities. If this move, if it moves down very, very sharply, I would expect that to be a buy setup. I would have to target straight down to 82. I would see that as like a shakeout in the middle of the start of an uptrend. And shake out, manage risk off the lows, expect a bounce, and then move your stop up. And see if it'll continue up. And then if it breaks below that, expect lower liquidity. But yeah, we'll update more over the weekend. We'll see how this price action continues. For right now, I'm looking for a buy setup at previous resistance, turn that into support for a push up to potentially 100K, potentially all the way up to these liquidities, and then a sharp rejection before bouncing and maybe taking out that high one more time for the double top. We'll see if we get that price action. So don't forget to check out my slice profile. I'm really excited about that. I think that could be beneficial for those trying to learn how to trade and learn how to manage in markets. I think I have some good ideas that could help people out. So check it out, 30% discount going on. Look in the link in the description below. And keep them stops tight and have a good night.